Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're really unpacking a challenge many of you living abroad will face, maybe are facing right now, setting up your finances in a new country. And our focus today, Vietnam. It's vibrant, it's modernizing incredibly fast, but, well, it also has its own unique ways of doing things, especially when it comes to bureaucracy. We've pulled together some really fascinating insights. Our main source is a guide called Opening a Bank Account in Vietnam, a foreigner's guide. And it actually includes bits from an episode of Living Vietnam, the Expat Life Unfiltered. You get these practical, really on-the-ground tips from a local business owner, Phong, and a foreign teacher named Sophie. Their experiences are like the core of what we're discussing. So our mission really is to arm you with the essential steps, what to do, what not to do, those little insider tips that can make opening a bank account in Vietnam hopefully smooth, successful. Less of the usual expat drama, right? We want to give you that shortcut, basically, to being well-informed.
Yeah, and what's really interesting here is how something that sounds simple, opening a bank account, can suddenly get quite complex when you're in a whole new system. So this deep dive, it's not just about what to do. We're going to try and explain why certain things work better, help you get the nuances, the sort of cultural and regulatory background. And just to give you a taste of that direct advice, here's a little clip from Phong himself from that source. Xin chào and welcome back to Living Vietnam, the Expat Life Unfiltered. I'm Phong from ProCare Hanoi, where we fix phones and laptops and help you fix your daily life in Vietnam too. See? It's that kind of really practically grounded perspective that makes this so useful, I think. So yeah, let's unpack it.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's kick this off with the big one. Why even bother? I mean, for someone just arriving, maybe even seasoned travelers, it might seem easier to just stick with your home bank, use international cards. Is that really doable long-term in Vietnam?
That's a super common thought, can I just get by? And maybe for a short trip, sure. But the sources we looked at, they're pretty clear. Relying only on international cards or just cash, it's just not sustainable if you're actually living there. I mean, beyond the obvious, like getting paid if you're working.
Mm-hmm.
What else? What are the daily hassles you think someone would run into without a local account?
Well, straight away, I think of those foreign ATM fees.
Yeah.
Every time you take cash out, it's just like chipping away at your money.
Mm-hmm.
And the exchange rate markups, too, they can really bleed you dry over weeks and months. But I wonder, is it just convenience? Or are there deeper issues? Like, could you actually be blocked from essential services if you don't have a local bank?
You've hit on something really crucial there. It's definitely not just about saving a few dong on fees, though that helps. The source really highlights how a local bank account is, fundamental to plugging into Vietnam's digital economy. Think about online shopping, Shopee, Tiki, they're huge over there.
Yeah.
And a lot of sellers prefer, sometimes they even require local bank transfers. Paying your rent, your utility bills, your internet. It's all just way smoother with a Vietnamese account. Trying to use an international card for those, you might get hit with extra fees, or sometimes it just won't even work.
Ah, okay. So it's not just saving money. It's actually about being able to function smoothly day to day.
Exactly. And think bigger picture, too. The source talks about Vietnam's amazing local payment systems. The digital wallets like Momo, ZaloPay, plus now Apple Pay and Google Pay are integrating. Vietnamese banks link up with these seamlessly. Without a local account, you're kind of locked out of that super efficient system. Imagine trying to book a Grab ride or order food delivery, pay at small shops, without being able to link to Momo or ZaloPay. It turns simple things into, a real hassle. Sophie, the teacher in our source, she mentioned how much easier her life got once she could use Momo for pretty much everything. It really is about embracing that local digital flow.
All right. You've convinced me you need one. So the nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
What do you actually need? What papers do you have to have ready when you walk into that bank? Because you can't just wing it. Right?
No, definitely not. Winging it is not advised. The sources say the core documents are pretty consistent, actually. First, obviously, a valid passport. That's standard. But here's the key part where people often get tripped up. You need a valid visa, or even better, a temporary residence card, the TRC. The guide specifically warns, this is important, tourist visas. They usually don't cut it. Banks see those and think short stay. They want proof you're planning to be there longer term.
Right. And then there's proving your address in Vietnam. This sounds like it could be a hurdle. It's not like showing your driver's license from home, is it? What are they actually looking for?
Good question. Yeah, it's more specific. The source suggests a few key things. Ideally, a rental contract, and it really helps if it's in your name. Or a utility bill, electricity, water, internet again, with your name and address on it. Or another option is getting a residence confirmation from your local ward police office. Basically, you need something official that ties you to a specific legitimate address in Vietnam. Some sources even hinted a notarized rental contract might be preferred by some banks. So yeah, best to have options ready.
Okay. And beyond that, I think you mentioned some banks might ask for a work permit or maybe a job contract. So the requirements aren't exactly the same everywhere.
That's absolutely right. It does vary a bit, bank to bank, even branch to branch sometimes. So the golden rule seems to be bring everything, more than you think you need. Now, here's a really useful pro tip from the source. If you can, try going to a bank branch in an area where lots of foreigners live or work. In Hanoi, they mention places like Tay Ho, Ba Dinh, or maybe around Giang Von in District 2. Why? Well, the staff there are just more used to dealing with expats. They're more likely to speak some English, sure, but crucially, they understand foreign documents. They know the process for foreigners. It can save you a lot of time and potential misunderstandings you might get at a branch that rarely sees non-Vietnamese customers.
That makes a lot of sense. Go where they see people like you often.
Hmm.
Okay, but there are so many banks in Vietnam. How do you even begin to choose one? Which ones are known for being, reasonably foreigner-friendly and not a total nightmare?
Yeah, the choice can be overwhelming. Thankfully, the source gives us a kind of expat-approved shortlist, which is super helpful. TP Bank comes up a lot. Apparently quite easy to open an account there. Staff often speak English. Good starting point. ACB is mentioned as reliable, solid, and they have a good mobile app, which is important. Vietcombank is huge. They're everywhere, so that's a plus. But the source warns they can be quite slow, bureaucratic. So patience required there.
Okay.
Then there's Techcombank, known for being very digital savvy, good online banking. And VP Bank gets a mention too, apparently quite friendly towards teachers and freelancers, maybe slightly simple in processes if you have a work contract. Oh, and a key warning from the source. Probably avoid really small local banks or branches way out in rural areas. The staff there just might not have the training or experience with foreigner procedures. You could waste a whole morning.
Right, stick to the bigger players or ones known for dealing with expats. Okay, but beyond picking the bank, what about actual mistakes? The definite don'ts. Things that will just get your application thrown out or cause major delays. I bet there are a few common ones.
Oh, definitely. There are pitfalls. Number one, timing. Don't rock up at 4:45 p.m. Banks usually close at 5 p.m. sharp. And they will not rush a complex foreign application for you. Go early. Give yourself plenty of time. And again, that point about tourist visas. Seriously, don't even try. It's almost guaranteed to be rejected. It just doesn't show the long-term residency they need to see.
Okay, but why are these don'ts so important? Like, beyond just wasting time, is there something else going on?
Well, yes. Here's a subtle but critical one the source points out.
Hmm.
Don't say you want the account just for cash.
Really? Why not?
It sounds innocent, right? But Vietnam, like most countries now, has pretty strict anti-money laundering rules. Saying just for cash can apparently raise red flags. It might suggest you're trying to avoid tracking or have funds you don't want documented. Stick to legitimate reasons. Receiving salary, paying bills, daily living expenses, much safer. And another absolute must, you need a Vietnamese phone number. It's not optional. You need it for SMS alerts, for activating mobile banking, for security confirmations. It's totally foundational to the whole system. You just can't do digital banking without it. So the broader advice here is really about managing expectations. Don't expect the same kind of customer service you might get back home, the source says. Smile, be polite, be patient, and bring every single piece of paper you can possibly think of. Seriously, a good attitude can sometimes smooth things over more than you'd think.
Right. Patience and politeness go a long way. Okay, so you've got your documents sorted, picked a likely bank, you know what not to do. What about those little extra things, the insider tips that can make the difference between a smooth process and a frustrating one?
Yeah, the source had some smart little tricks. One was, maybe surprisingly, dress smartly, business casual.
Really? Like, does that actually help?
Apparently it can. It's not about being fancy, but just showing you're serious, respectful. It's a subtle thing, maybe about presentation, which can be quite valued in formal interactions in Vietnam. It might just subconsciously make the staff take your application a bit more seriously.
Huh. Interesting cultural point. And I saw something really practical. Ask your landlord for a digital copy of your rental contract, one you can easily show or forward. Plus, the advice was to bring both printed and digital copies of everything. The guide mentioned Sophie, the teacher, wasting a whole morning hunting for a photocopy shop because she forgot one page. Exactly the kind of hassle you want to avoid. So yeah, overprepared is way better.
Absolutely. You do not want to get sent home for a missing photocopy after you've already queued up. And here's a big one for the language barrier. Learn this basic phrase. Toimun mutai hongan hang. It means, I want to open a bank account. Just showing that effort helps. But honestly, even better if you possibly can, bring a Vietnamese-speaking friend along, even just for the first 10-15 minutes. The source really emphasizes this. Your friend can quickly clarify things, translate tricky questions, and just build that bit of rapport and understanding. It can speed the whole thing up massively. It shows respect, too.
That sounds like really solid advice. Okay, so let's say you navigate all that. You filled in the forms, smiled patiently, presented your documents. What actually happens? What kind of account do you typically end up with? What can you do with it?
Right, the payoff. Well, typically, foreigners open a basic combo account, so a checking account for daily transactions and usually a linked savings account. You'll definitely get a debit card for ATMs and local payments. Some banks might even offer a Visa or MasterCard debit card, which is handy if you travel outside Vietnam or shop online internationally. And crucially, you get access to their mobile banking app. That's your main tool, really, for checking your balance, transferring money, paying bills. Most of these apps are pretty good now, quite user-friendly.
And presumably you can then link this account to those payment apps we talked about, Momo, ZaloPay, ShopeePay.
Exactly. That's often the next step. Once the bank account is active, you link it in those apps, and that's when daily life gets really convenient. Ordering food, paying for taxis, shopping online, it all becomes much simpler.
And the cost. Is it expensive to maintain these accounts?
Surprisingly affordable, actually. The source mentions typical monthly fees are somewhere between, 11,000 to 20,000 Vietnamese dong.
Which is, what, less than $1?
Yeah, exactly. Less than your average iced coffee over there. So
Yeah.
it's really good value for the convenience it unlocks.
Okay, great. Now, we actually had a specific question come in from a listener, Tom in Da Nang. He asks, I heard foreigners need a temporary residence card, a TRC, to open an account. Is that strictly true, or can I get by with just my regular long-term visa?
Excellent question, Tom. And yeah, it gets right to the heart of that variability we mentioned. What exactly proves long-term stay to a bank? The source does confirm that yes, for most major banks, the big names, they typically do prefer or sometimes require either a TRC or at least a proper long-term visa. Think work visa, business visa, maybe a marriage visa, something clearly indicating you're not just passing through.
But there's a but, isn't there?
There often is. The nuance is that sometimes, maybe at smaller branches, or perhaps branches less used to expats, they might be more flexible. The source suggests sometimes a solid job contract or maybe a sponsorship letter from your company could be accepted instead of a TRC. Especially if you present everything clearly and, well, the staff member feels comfortable with your situation. It really can sometimes depend on the specific person you talk to, their interpretation of the rules, and yeah, as the source keeps mentioning, your smile and politeness. It shows how personal interaction can still play a big role.
Fascinating. So it's not always black and white. Okay, let's do a quick recap then. Your essential bank account survival checklist for Vietnam. What are the absolute must-haves?
Okay, quick list. Valid passport, check.
Check.
A valid long-term visa, TRC, is best, but work business visa might do, check.
Right. Proof of address?
Yep, rental contract, utility bill, or that ward registration paper, something solid, check.
Okay. Maybe a job contract.
Good idea to bring it, yes. Or a sponsor letter if you have one, might help, check.
And the non-negotiable.
Vietnamese phone number, absolutely essential, check.
Got it. So that's the paperwork.
And remember the tactics. Go early, dress neatly, smile.
And maybe target TP Bank, ACB, or Techcom Bank for a potentially smoother ride.
Exactly. Look, the main takeaway here, I think, is that Vietnam's modernizing super fast, especially its digital payments. But the actual banking process for foreigners, it still needs a bit of patience, a bit of preparation. Do it once, get it right. And honestly, it can make your daily life there so much easier almost overnight. You really become part of the local flow.
Yeah, it's more than just banking, isn't it? It's about integrating, making things seamless. And speaking of practicalities, the source material, Living Vietnam, the Expat Life Unfiltered, Phong actually had this final little plug. And if your phone breaks before you download your banking app, you know where to go. ProCare Hanoi. Fast, fair, and foreigner-friendly. If you enjoyed this episode, consider buying me a coffee. Just scan the QR code in the podcast cover art. It really helps keep this podcast series going. That practical advice right to the end there. Okay, so to wrap this deep dive up, a final thought for you listening. When you think about navigating new systems in a foreign country, what do you find the most challenging aspect? Is it the paperwork, the language barriers, understanding the unwritten rules, or maybe something else entirely? Worth pondering. Thanks for joining us.